Welcome back to the Perfect Lap Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. He goes by Kilgore. I go by Jager. Today we have the infamous Will Drees, which, may be well known to many of you for his piloting role at KTM Tuners with his Hyundai Elantra N. Although some of you, maybe like me, remember him as someone who used to ride in a CRX, this beautiful beast of a CRX, and we just missed that car to the max. Man, Will, nice having you on, man. Appreciate you coming in, checking us out, and man, I hope we can talk a lot of good time attack. You have quite the experiences, quite the repertoire. You've driven anything and everything, and throughout the years, I think I've seen you go fast in about every single thing that you've touched. And you've made things beautiful as well. So I'm just going to start you off with what draws you to time attack? What's the thing? What's the itch?
Geez. I've never really thought it's the perfect hobby. I think it's, if you get good at building, which is almost impossible, then you have to get good at driving. And if you get good at driving, you not get that good at driving until you're good at car setup. And then you're not that good at car setup unless you're it's like this infinite figure eight of just like learning. So, my whole life, I've just been like, just thirsty for I need to know everything. Why is that able to fly? Why can that do that and that can't? So it's like the perfect, it just speaks to me on every level of like, I want to learn why that's doing it. And I want to replicate it. And I want to get good at replicating it. I want to build cool stuff and have cool stuff and go get adrenaline driving. Like, it's the perfect thing. It's the perfect thing all around.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like the ability to, in time attack, to build things, learn about them. And one of the things I love as a time attack person, right, is it gives us, the layman, the person who's just into cars, the ability to kind of jump into something and build it as big and bad as we want it to be, or not.
You know what it is? You could be, I think I was talking to some of the grid life people. I think I was talking to Abe. And I said, it lets you be king of the trolls. Like, cause no one there, like, you're king of the goblins. If you could go fast in a time attack car and build a time attack car, you're not in IMSA. You're not in like Formula One or like some feeder series. You're not in these big, you're just like, you're with a bunch of other autistic weirdos that are trying to do this one very specific thing, but they're all trying really, really hard. So like, the king of the goblin is the best. It's the best descriptor I could put on time attack. And I think it's the reason that all of us are like, we love it.
Yeah, I will say this, and I, no disrespect, but that really speaks to grid life, like king of the goblins. That's right up grid life's alley right there.
So kind of, I don't want to run it back too far, but run us back to the CRX, right? I'm making some assumptions here, but the CRX is probably one of the builds that a lot of people kind of first got their initiation of, you will, and like understand. So how did that car come about? Why did that car come about the way it did? And then what were you trying to achieve with it when you were building it?
So I had at that time, well, I had a bunch of drift cars before that, and S13s and things like that I would take to the track and drive, not drift, but actually try and like grip drive them, like just HPD days, whatever. I had an NSX. I bought an NSX, and the only reason I bought it was to build my credit. I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to make car payments, so it's going to build my credit. I don't have any credit. And I immediately took this like I got it for like $22,000 back in the day. It had 30,000 miles on it, Formula Red 92. And I bought like the nicest one I could find. And then immediately the prices like went through the freaking roof. And I'm tracking this thing 4 times a month, like beating the hell out of it. I blew a motor. I was like, yo, this is not like, I do okay. Like, I was making some pretty okay money at work, but I was like, I can't afford to do this. So I was like, all right, what's option cheaper? Like, what's like a one step down on the just like retard scale? And I was like, you know what it is? I think it's going to be probably an A86. This is back when they were like a reasonable car. So I went and I was going to have this 86 put together with an F20. I bought all this stuff. I pulled everything off of it. rotisserie build, stitched well in the whole chassis. And then I kind of got, I definitely got screwed on the fabrication. So the fabricator just really boned me and had this car completely apart, nothing together. I had a pile of parts to put on it. And no other fabricator would take it when he pulled the plug. He's like, look, I'm closing the shop. You know, every other fabricator was like, dude, I don't. Yeah. So that put this super sour taste in my mouth. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a CRX because it's an easy car. And at that time, Hondas were huge. We were all driving in HFF Challenge. I'm sure you remember that, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
And so I bought this car, and it just started with this like, okay, this is the meanwhile car, so I don't beat up on the nice NSX, and I'm going to just drive this thing. And I ended up selling all the parts for the 8.6 that I had, like this garage full of parts. And every time I would sell something, I'd just take it and I'd take that money in one hand and I just like give it to just parts for the CRX. So eventually it turned into just this like wild, like full aero CRX. And I blew up so many motors on that thing, trying to be fancy and trying to do just cool stuff, that eventually I just went back to like a stock Type R B18 and just built everything else around it. And that car ended up being really, really fast for a long time. It had the records at Chuckwalla, front wheel drives. Overall for at Chuckwalla, Streets of Willow, I think Big Willow, it was really fast button Willow, and it had under 200 horsepower. So it was just a constant development cycle on that car. And it was just like a labor of love. Like that thing was such like a Fruit Loop, like everything that could go wrong went wrong. I'd have to like reinvent the wheel, like cut whole sections of the cage out, redo them. Like, but it was fun. I was learning a lot as I was doing it. So that was the car that I think most people, like you said, like kind of took notice of on that car. And it was like the perfect time to that era. Having like a Honda that could just go and rip around was like, it was the right thing. You weren't spending too much money. Everything was relatively cheap, but then it was the maximum scale of cheap. Like it was still only 15-inch tires, but you know, it's 15 by 245s, you know, like you have to buy the Hooters to get that size back in the day. So eventually I was like, you know what, this is rad, but I'm going to start building other stuff. And I ended up getting some Radicals. I got a Lexus. I got a bunch of other stuff. And then sort of like, time moves on.
Wait.
Find ourselves.
You didn't just get a Lexus. You have to tell the story. Because so many people think these things are just ripoffs. So how did you obtain the Lexus?
Hold on one second. We can't just jump off the CRX this quickly. Let me ask one question on it. And how long did you build the CRX? And one reason I ask is I'd like to give our audience like an idea of, it takes a long time to build these cars, right? Like it's not just 2 years and you're out there ripping around in this crazy Aero CRX. Like how long did it take you to kind of build it?
That's actually a really good point, and something that a lot of people, especially when I'm talking to like the younger, the people that are just getting into it, are realizing like, oh, I'm going to put this on and I'm going to show up and it's going to work and I'm going to go rip around the track. And I think both of you, I know for a fact, Mark is wise enough to know that that's not how things work. Like there's whole race teams with like $1 million budgets that can't get that to happen. So I'm going to drive it in like Form 1, which is just no aero, just gutted with a B18. Okay, cool. I've got the motor semi figured out. Okay, what's the next thing? Oh, you know what? I really want to learn about aero. So my dad is an aeronautical engineer, so I can help. I could get help from him, call him up.
That's convenient.
It's really cool. It's my whole life. My whole life, I've been like super, super pumped because I could ask him just like really cool questions, and he understands it. He gets it. So this car, every one of my cars, I to spend the money that I'm spending, I have to justify it to myself by learning something. So this car, like I would say, I learned kind of the basics of aero and the basics of car setup was like my goal with this car. And I knew that I would build other cars in the future and I would do things like electronics, data, things like that in the future. But my goal here was, let's build a car that's just going to be able to rip around and go quick with no power. Like I don't want to have to worry about the power. So to get from the time that I bought that car to kind of what you see in the picture here, this is the Evo 2 of it. So this is like before it had some of the final aero on it, was probably 4 years. And when I say 4 years, I'm saying it's 4 years of every night in the garage. Like I don't do anything else. I don't have a life outside of cars. If I'm not going to the racetrack, I'm figuring out how to get to the racetrack. I'm figuring out, is there like a team that needs a driver, like a third seat or wheel to wheel race, or I'm in the garage. Like I'm going to learn how to build composites. I'm going to learn how to wire a PDM. I'm going to learn how to do whatever. So it's like, it was probably 2 years of really hard work where things didn't go well. And then 2 years of it actually paying off. And then when I got to a point, finally, I felt like I kind of outgrew the chassis a little bit and I was needing some space because I was buying some other things. And then that's kind of when I said, you know what, I'm going to park this. I'm going to put a period at the end of the paragraph and then move on to the next thing and learn some more. So I look back fondly. I'm not attached to cars. I don't keep things. Like I'm not one of those people. Like if I'm done, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to sell it. And that is weirdly one of the cars where I'm like, man, I wish I still had that one. But
Yeah.
when
So,
I sold this,
well-
I actually bought a Spoon car, like a real, like JDM built by Spoon Sports Japan car that ran in the 25 hours of Thunder Hill. And I look back now, I bought that, but I needed to put it in a spot that this was parked, the CRX. And that was like sort of a bonehead, like 2020 hindsight. And I wish I didn't do that. I wish I just would have kept it.
Nice. So, two questions off that, which is, so what was sort of the total build time with the CRX before you kind of parked it?
I'd say it was probably just around 4.5 years, maybe
okay.
around 5 years. Yeah.
And
But
then,
everything changed. There was nothing that was on it on year 2 that was on it on year 4.
sure.
It was literally just the chassis.
So then going to the Spoon car, what sort of things did you learn or did you notice, like going from a car that was totally hand built by you versus this sort of pseudo factory style kind of race car, and the things that you learned sort of comparing those two?
If you want, if you want me to be honest, the stuff I was
Absolutely.
doing, on the CRX was at a level much, much higher
Okay.
than the way that I got a Spoon car. Because
Hey,
that thing
absolutely.
was the biggest basket case. Like you could see, I don't want to trash anything, and I know that like the car ran and did what it needed to do or whatever, but like it literally showed up in the States and you could see where they had to cut part of the cage out because it wouldn't pass tech for the 25 hours of Thunder Hill. And so you could see where they like moved cage bars, and some of the wiring was like, yeah, okay, like I can see why they did it like this, but I redid basically everything when I restored that car. The whole goal with that car was just to restore it so it was like back, because that car raced in Europe. It was on 5th gear, so like Tiff Nadell from 5th gear drove it, and like it won
That's
the
cool.
25 hours of Thunder Hill like 3 years in a row. It won WTCC. It did a bunch of cool stuff. I was like, man, I want to save this car, and I've never built a car restoring it. I've only ever built something to try and go fast. So it was interesting. Would I do it again? I don't think I would. I got it. I drove it. I restored it to probably a year or 2 of just building it, like I said, every day. And then I drove it on track 3 times. And the 3rd time I was literally driving back, I think from Chatwalla. And by the time I got halfway home, I was like, yeah, I'll sell it. Like I was like, okay, cool. That was fun. And then I just sold it. So, yeah. And then, yeah, just, things kind of march forward from there.
You're kind of an interesting case here because you like to probably build as much as you like to drive. And I say
Yeah.
that because a lot of people, myself included, I am much more of a I just want to drive.
Well,
I have to build to get to drive.
yeah, I was gonna classify that by saying like the only reason I wrench or the only reason I build is so I can drive. I don't have, even if I have the money, which I'm trying to just not spend as much as I've always spent on cars my whole life. I'm like literally trying this last year, which is horribly failing. But like the way I look at it is like I can't have cool things that I want or stuff that I think is cool unless I make it. Like I can't afford to pay people to do this stuff. I can afford to have someone build a transmission, sure, stuff that I just don't. I can do, but I just don't want to do. It's like, you're the guy that does the transmissions that aren't going to blow up. Cool, here's some money. But like, I know how to do it, but I don't enjoy it in a sense of like, I can't wait to go lay in transmission fluid. Like I just, I'm not super stoked on that, but like, I'll do it because the means to an end. Like at the end of the day, like I get to go rip around in that thing, knowing that I did that fluid correctly. You know, I think a lot of us in the goblin world, like we were talking about, kind of probably have the same thing. Is like, I'm only doing this so I could go drive. I'm only doing this because it's going to let me do X, Y, or Z. Sort of like you were saying, even Jager, like I don't enjoy it, but I'll do it because I enjoy the other thing much more than I don't enjoy doing work.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, obviously for me, doing my stuff with, whether it be my Subaru, whether it be my Mustang, or hey, my fun new Cayman now. It's like I'm gonna do that stuff that I have to do because, like you said, like as much as I'd love to just be able to throw out money like it's going out of style, I don't have that. And so, and I do have a desire to learn this stuff. I think that's something that for me over the years, to be able to say like, would I suggest anyone to pay me to build a Subaru motor? No, never in my lifetime will I say pay me to build your Subaru motor. But I'm gonna tell you, we did a lot of things that I'd never thought in a million years that I would be able to do per se.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, it's fun. Like you said, I think aero is probably one of my little vices. Like I have to put aero on cars, just because it intrigues me. It interests me. I love the feeling of putting aero on a car and what it does to your high speed stability, and what it can do and how it can make an effect and do. I don't know. I think that is like one of the coolest factors, and that's always what's going to drive me down like different paths and say like,
Yeah.
hey,
So like I was saying earlier, like the ability to iterate on things, because I feel like you could learn at a very kind of base level, you know, at the top of the iceberg or whatever. Like, oh, I'm going to buy a wing, I'm going to put the wing on the car. But I want to understand it on a level of like, okay, now I want to get a different chord length of that wing, or I want to try maybe like these different end plates. Like, what is that doing? And that's a level that I think most people sort of stop at that top level. I'm very interested in like, okay, well, why do they do it? Why is it swan mounted? What is that? So like, I will go and I will iterate on things I've already done, which is like kind of like the bane of my existence. It's because nothing's ever done. So it's like, so I had to, by just means of having to sort of iterate, I had to figure out how to like, okay, well, like I did the aero, the flat floor, but now I'm going to put like big diffusers on it and see like, what does that change? So, okay, well, I already bought the flat floors from the company. So now like, oh, I better learn how to put the big diffusers on it myself, because I don't want to pay again for another floor. So you just sort of keep going down that route, and just like, that's where I find myself with literally every car I get. And now you guys could probably like understand this, is now if you buy a car, like someone's like, oh, my buddy's got a time attack car, it's for sale, and you get it, say you like, oh, you're in the market, you buy a car, there's nothing on that car that you're not touching. Even if it's done, you have to like take everything off, look at it, be like, no, that's probably okay, but like I know it could be better. And you find yourself in the same spot.
oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because like when I parted out and sold my Subaru, I mean, I sold it to, you know, every person on the planet basically who was into Subarus. And it's like, I guarantee you every single one of those guys, you know, took it apart, did this, changed that, took what I did, built upon it. I'm still waiting one day magically where the chassis is gonna randomly show back up at an event one day. But you just
That'd be
never
cool.
know. Never know. But
That was a cool car.
it was a cool car, but man, it's like you said, like I don't want to say that I get attached to cars. Um, but like for you, here's the question I have for you is, generally when you get a car, how long do you normally keep the car?
I kept my NSX for 11 years. I kept that CRX probably for 6. I've had now the ISF that I'm building. I think around 7. And then I've had radicals, and I have this Porsche now and some other stuff that like I don't, if they're doing what I want, what I got them for. So if I'm driving them and I'm enjoying them and I'm working on them, I'll keep them for as long as that's fulfilling that purpose. But I'm not one of those guys that's like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to put it in the lift in the back corner and just have it. Like, I'm not, when I'm done, I'm just not interested. I'm like, okay, cool.
And I completely understand that, because I mean, for me, and part of it to me is always going to be a money factor, right? Like for me to get rid of my Subaru, I got rid of my Subaru, got money, and was able to take that money and go buy my Mustang and instantly have a paid off Mustang. And that's a nice feeling to have a paid off car.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm just like over it. Like the money is also a huge factor in that. Where I'm like, geez, man, that thing sitting in the garage is like a lot of money in the form of a car that I don't want more. So yeah.
One of the things that always, and again, I respect people a lot that, have different cars, and I definitely know some people who have car ADHD where they're getting in a different car every 2 years. But I've always kind of thought like, okay, if I have like 2 track cars, why do I need 2 track cars? Like, because then I'm not able to put the investment into one car instead of having to split it among 2. Why not just have one that I can kind of go full bore with and put all my time and energy into? Because one of them's going to be faster than the other, and I'm going to want to drive the faster one than the other.
It's hard to split the strings, and it's hard to have the 2 draws on the bank account. I'm in the middle of it right now, and it's not fun. It's really not fun, but it's kind of a situation I find myself in.
Here at the Perfect Lab Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offer the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2- and 3-piece wheel designs. All engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum, but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do at Whoosh Bespoke. You can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding 2 tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WCEC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team, so we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the time attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out.
Well, let's circle back to the ISF, which Jager was talking about. I got us sidetracked a little bit, but let's circle back to the ISF. A car that fell into your lap almost, from what I hear.
Yeah, I won it in a raffle. A friend of mine was starting a business and was doing one of these raffles. It was early days of raffles, like buy a ticket for $125 it was. And you get a spot in this raffle. And I didn't even do the odds. I was just like, oh, my buddy's starting a business. Like, I'll help him out. Sure. So I bought
support the business.
ticket.
Support.
Yeah. I was like, hey, it's a friend of mine. Yeah, great. So I'm like, if I could do this before the commercial of what I'm watching, the show is over. Like if the show comes back on and I'm in the middle of it, like I'm not doing it. So I texted him, texted right back. He said, do you want a specific number? I was like, no, dude, just here's the money. Like, congrats on starting the business. And 4 days later, I'm in the garage and I'm building AN lines. I think it's for the spoon car. And I had the drawing. I was like, oh, that drawing thing is tonight. I'm curious. I never seen one. So I put it on Instagram Live, and I just put it on like next to my Bluetooth speaker. And he's like reading off like third place was like $500, and like second place was like $750, and then the grand prize is the car. And like he's like number 125 or 170, whatever it was. And I was like, that kind of sounds familiar. I didn't even know what number I bought. I just was like, there's no way I'm winning this. And I was like, dude, that sounds kind of familiar. And then he goes on the little list, and by then I'd gotten over to my phone and I'm watching it, and he's like, oh, it's Willem, no way. So at that point, in my garage, I had the Spoon car. I still Spoon car, CRX. I had an FK8 at the time that I was driving, and I had a tow rig. I had way too much stuff. So I immediately was just like, dude, that's crazy. And then was just like, where the hell am I going to put it? Like, what am I going to do with this thing? So I was like, well, I guess I'll just get it and then I'll flip it. Cause then like at the time they were cheap. They were like, I mean, cheap is a relative term, but they weren't a $50,000 car. They were like 20 grand, say. So it was like, it was great to win. It means 20 grand, but it was like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to fix what's wrong with it. I'll flip it. I'm going to make 20 grand. I just won 20 grand in a raffle. That's the way I was looking at it. And then as I got the car, it was completely clapped out. It was like beyond clapped out. It was like CarMax would have been like, nah, dude, he was like $5,000. Like, yeah. So it was cool, but like the more stuff, so I was like, I'll just fix it. And then, so if someone comes to test drive it, they're like, oh, it's not like a clapped out hoopty. So the more stuff I would fix on it, the better it would get. And I was like, this thing's rad. Like, cause at the time I was really hot and heavy for Corvettes. I was like, dude, I'm buying a Corvette. It's my next car. And
God, I'm so glad you didn't buy a Corvette.
I know. Right. And I was like, but I'm like a Japanese car dude. Like I love Japanese cars. And the more stuff
can you remind me the specs of what the ISF is? I mean, it's not just
sorry,
V8,
yeah, it's a 5-liter Yamaha V8. So it's a Yamaha built 5-liter V8, and it's in a Frankenstein chassis. So it's the first year. So the ISF is the precursor to the RCF and the GSF. So because it was the first year, from what I understand, is they were just figuring out if they could like do this thing that they were thinking about. So they took the middle of the front frame rails of the GS because it had the V8, like the luxury VIP car. The middle of the car was from the convertible, whatever that convertible thing was, because it had the torsional rigidity that they thought that they would need in a sports car. And the rear was from like an IS 350, whatever, 250, it just needed to be back there. So it was like from factory, they said, we have this badass motor that is literally still put in everything to this day. So they're like, we know we have a winner on the motor, but we're just going to put it in this chassis. And I knew about them, but I never cared about them because they only came in automatics. So I was like, oh, back in the day, I was like, oh, it's not free pedals. Like, I don't care. I don't want anything to do with it because I was an idiot. And then now, then I drove it and I was just like, dude, this thing's rad. Like I straight pipe it because I'm an idiot like that. And I was driving it to work and I was like, this thing sounds so good. I could like rip onto the freeway on ramp and literally just like completely leave 11, like all the way onto the highway. Like there's nothing cooler than this. And I stopped driving the FK8. And then I was like, I'm selling the FK8. And then the more stuff I fixed, the better it would get. And then I took it to the track and I was like, I just want to see if the cooling mods worked. This is what I told myself. Game over, dude. I was like, this thing is so fun. Like,
that's awesome.
This is it. This is like the new thing. So yeah, I ended up just going kind of ham on that car. And like my learning thing, like I was saying earlier, like I have to have a thing that I'm like learning on the cars. I was like, okay, I know what to do aero wise on this thing, but I want to learn data. So I just put every possible data sensor I could get on it, shock pots, sensors, tire sensors, like everything I could do. And then I just got really heavy and just kind of learning data and then doing setup. So changing the setup to see how it reflects in the data. So I still have that car to this day.
What system were you using like to gather all the data?
So I had an AIM Evo 5. So it was basically the formula logger. So it's the one that's meant for formula cars. So it's got the most hertz logging rate and it has the most channel inputs. And then I had just like a single, because in the ISF, the OEM cluster is an ECU, you can't remove it or the car won't work. So I had to leave that. So I got the little GS dash, which is like the monochromatic, the size of like a AIM Solo. and I put that up, but I was logging literally every single thing in that car. So like I learned to write formulas. I learned to like, for example, like, oh, I'm going to log wheel speeds and I'm going to write a formula that if on corner entry, this wheel speed is different than this wheel speed. Now that's telling me to look at the diff. There's something wrong with the diff. So like I would sort of dig down every track day. I'd pick something and be like, I'm going to dig down into that and really understand what this is telling me data wise. So I went from kind of like total, I have no idea what I'm looking at, to like pretty confident that I could pull apart stuff and sort of see what was happening in a car, which to this day has helped me, which I'm super glad I did that. But yeah, it was a kind of a nerdy, it was really nerdy endeavor, but it was fun. It's fun it's still fun. I mean, I'm glad that car is awesome. I love that car. I love V8s. Like,
so kind of describe what the status of that car is at the moment, and what do you envision it being at the, I'm not going to say end because there's no end, but at the part where you feel that it's going to be awesome enough.
So this car, I've told myself, is the last car that I want to build. So I'm doing all of this stuff to this car that I've always wanted to do or always will want to do. So I built a full composite carbon fiber wide body kit. So I built the molds and built all my stuff. I had under Suzuki in Japan just finished the aero. So it's literally in a container on the way here.
Jesus.
I built a front splitter, heated the wing. It's up at Riley at RS Motorsport. We are a bunch of idiots and we all sat around looking at the car. I brought it up there to fix the cage, and we were all sitting there one night and we're just like, you know what would fit in this thing is a transaxle and an LS7. I wonder if like the length of the C5 torque tube puts the axles, like where does that put it? And then literally 48 hours later, I had bought a Sativ transaxle and an MST LS7 and full dry sump, and like it went overboard really, really quickly. So that is the last car that I'm going to build. I think we're focusing on rear weight balance at 53% in the rear. So it's like a DTM car. So I'm sitting back behind the rear door. So if you open the front door, it's just the pedals are there. Right now the chassis is completely cut out. So it's not even really an ISF anymore, other than like the silhouette. So like anything that's 3 layers of metal for strength was all basically drilled and cut out. So it's a single layer over a cage. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Riley, but he's just an absolute beast. And I'm so lucky to have him as a friend of mine to really just like say, hey, let's do this thing and let's like actually go for it. So, it's up there now and it's not far. I've spent in this last year so much just getting that thing, just getting the parts to throw at that thing. So it's not like vaporware in my brain. Like I hear a lot of people building crazy stuff, but it's like, yeah, okay. Like this is all bought and paid for. It's just literally, it's waiting to get on the car. So it's happening and it should be done in the next like 6 to 8 months, I think is what we're ballparking. We're on the downward side of the hill. So we're putting, the motor is actually in it and the drivetrain's in it. The cage is in it. I have all the composites built. Like I said, the aero is on its way from Japan. I have wheels. There's not a whole lot left to do. I own all the stuff to make it run and drive. So it's really just the fabrication, which is, as you guys know, just takes forever.
Oh yeah. So what's the goal? What's the plan? What are you going to do with it?
So I'm building it. It's built for the unlimited rule set because we were thinking about doing a limited, and then there's the stuff that I wanted to do being the last car that I want to build. There's things that I wanted to do, just we couldn't do for limited. We couldn't get in the rules.
I'm more excited to hear you say unlimited than anything else. And I say that because I feel like for you to build a car like that and to be hamstrung by a rule set would stifle the creativity. It doesn't make any sense. It would just be something that you'd probably end up hating later on. So I'm super excited to hear that you say unlimited.
I would definitely be kicking myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. And we actually went down the path for a little bit of a limited build, and like kind of at the same kind of these couple crossroads, we both at the same time, Riley and myself, came to this conclusion of like, why are we doing it like this? Like, why are we making ourselves have to do it like this? We both know that's not the way that it's going to go faster. Like this is kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think it was like, hey, let's just build an unlimited car. We could literally you could do less in GTA rule set than you can in Grid Life rule set. Grid Life rule set is like, do whatever you want and show up and race it. So,
does it have a VIN? Yes, accepted.
Yeah, cool. So it's all it's getting built. It's going to be done, but the idea is that I test it for at least a year, so I know, okay, if I'm going to go to this track, I know within a couple tenths of what's going to run. I don't want to be one of those guys out there in a car that's like, yeah, we're not sure if it's going to turn a lap. So, but the idea and the ethos behind the whole build is it's not fickle. Like, it's all these parts they work together. They're in, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just doing it in a way that is a little different than the way they're put together, not what you're putting together with. So the idea is just to do it all right the first time and to be able to just kind of like go pretty quick out of the box. It should be quick. The specs on it are pretty insane right now. I think it's 650 horsepower. It's got overhead for boost and nitrous. It's going to weigh about 2,300 pounds. It's going to make about 3,000 pounds of downforce.
Yeah.
So
when you were building this, which Jager and I have touched on a little bit, I'm kind of interested to see if this entered the discussion at all. I'm sure, given how thorough you are, I'm sure it probably did. But is it going to be a car where, maybe it's trending more towards the current time attack scene where you're actually going to be able to do 2 or 3 or 4 laps in a session, or is it going to be something that it is so high, it's so high strung, it's going to be a one and done?
No, I'm going to be burning this thing down like every weekend. Like when I'm like,
awesome.
I'm going to go to the track,
Heck yeah.
I'm bringing the time attack car to go to the track. I'm not like, I am building this other Porsche, which is a whole nother thing. But like the idea is if I'm going to the track, I'm taking the race car. I enjoy seeing these like Halo builds that come out once a year and kind of get the cobweb blown off of them and they change 1 or 2 things and they show up and, that's cool and all. That's kind of got its place in the time attack scene, but like, I want that thing to be out there every weekend ripping it. I mean, it's a freaking LS7. Like the thing for laps, like there's not a whole lot to it.
Yeah.
And just get the right tuning, and that transmission is good for double the power that I'm gonna have. Like, there's not a whole lot that's there's the setup, which is big, but that's the hill that I'm looking forward to climbing. Is like, okay, I got to get this working on whatever, bump stops and jumps I could put in it. Like, that's all the fun stuff in my opinion. But like this last week, I just bought all the Motec. I got an M150, PDM15 keypad, and then the Bosch ABS, and then some other. So like, it's kind of coming fast and furious. It's like everything's happening. It's like, oh, we need this. We gotta fit it. So I'm just watching my bank account just go. But I sold a Radical. I had an RXC 600R, so it was like kind of this pretty fancy prototype car. I sold that and just like I did with the CRX, like all of that money is going from this hand into this hand and then straight out the other side.
Yeah, nice.
It makes it easier to spend, though. I will say that it makes it exponentially easier to spend.
It's monopoly money at that point. You're like, it's just car money. Yeah, it's not real money.
In terms of the suspension, like stock knuckles, like ISF, or like what have you done there?
It's got the rear's a 5-link, and it's all, so we've got we dropped the rear subframe to get the roll centers better. I have obviously all arms. We've been going over kind of what needs revision and what doesn't, and a lot of it is totally fine. The front,
I assume that like it's not a stock ISF subframe anymore. You guys have totally remade all of that.
So the rear, because of the transaxle, it's got to carry. It's got to carry this. So essentially, if you imagine the center of the car, just the floor pan is the only thing that we needed to keep for the rules. That is the same, and then everything is cut off. So I don't know if you're familiar with Bando's car, the SE300, that crazy carbon Lexus.
Yeah.
So so the plan for the car is obviously there's going to be no floor in the rear. So you'll see the diffuser, and on top of the diffuser is the transaxle, and then just the inside of the car with the wing uprights. But I'm going to build a carbon firewall that separates me from the outside and the back. And I'm going to be sitting so far back that all the fronts change. But as far as like the pickup points, they're all stock standard stuff.
Okay.
we talked about changing some stuff, but the engineering and the fixtures you'd have to make and do all that stuff, it's just going to slow down. This is all things I get in the future if I want to. And it's all stuff that would have added a year to the build. Riley's going through it on a couple of the projects that are in his shop now. And so he's sort of felt the pain and said, you know what, like, you've got Penske's already on there. You've got the shock pots. You know exactly what this car wants. Like, we should run it like this. And I think you could tune your way around it and still be quick. That car was quick with 200,000 miles on it. It was doing, I think it did 48s at Button Willow with stock motor with headers and 200,000 miles. And I had just worked on the Aero. I had an NSX GT3 splitter on it from the Evo GT3 version, the NSX. And like, I adapted a lot of Aero parts. So like, just using the right parts and putting it together, even with stock power, that thing was like no joke. It was pretty quick. So I didn't feel the need, really. I didn't see big gaps, like holes in suspension where we need to change stuff. But again, it's going to be such a different beast with the power level and the weight balance. It's going to be so different that we might find that, oh, we gotta mess with a thing or two, but you know, we'll do that if we have to. But I don't think, I'm crossing my fingers at least, that we don't have to, because it would be cool to run it just with like the stock pickup points and be like, yep, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, having to wait an extra year, doing all that, I think you're doing the right move. I think there is something to be said about builds that take just a phenomenally long time, where the owners even get to the point of just despair, and it just kills your motivation for the projects. I mean, at least like you said, you have other projects in the queue as well as I mean, this is the bonus to having other cars per se, right? Like you can take the Radical to the track, you can take, you know, another car, and in your case, you can drive other people's vehicles, and that definitely helps, you know, kind of curb that desire a little bit. Whereas if you only have one, I mean, I don't know how some of these guys do it, where they just wait. I mean, one of the things that kind of killed my experience with the Subaru was every time a motor blew and you had to wait another, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get it built and do that. It hurt so bad to sit there. Even I had to go buy a Miata just so I could go to the track and just drive.
You're in build jail with the thing that you want. And then you're taking money and you're siphoning money off the top just to like get your fix on other things. I think we've all been there before, some way or another. But yeah, this was, since I knew that this was going to be kind of the last car, quote unquote, that I'm going to build. Like, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to take the time it needs, but I'm not going to do anything I don't think it actually needs. Like, I want to do cool stuff, but I'm not doing stuff just to do stuff. I think that's what I've seen in a lot of other sort of the higher tier time attack stuff that, you know, gets a lot of hype, or a lot of like people are, oh, that's going to be really cool. And then just it never materializes, is because I think it's like a bridge too far. So myself and Riley, again, like, I can't give him enough credit for just sort of being the voice of reason and saying like, let's do it this way. Let's do it the way we both know that needs to get done, and not get sidetracked with shiny things. Like, what are the main elements? Okay, transaxle. We know that's going to do the weight bias, which was the big thing. Okay, that's the easiest route to do that. How do you do that? You attach to something that it's been attached to a million times. What is that? An LS7, one of the most reliable track motors you could build. Like, and don't get me wrong, I do not want an LS swapped car. Like, that's a derogatory term. So I looked into the SB1 NASCAR motors. I looked into I talked to TRD about putting a TRD V8 in it. It literally came down to, do you want to be able to say that it's an all Toyota product just to say it, and then be sitting in the pits broken and you can't get another crank because this, you know, the snout got screwed up? Or do you want to just put the thing in if it's going to freaking work? And I just imagine myself in the end, when I'm at one of these events like Laguna Seca, like, I'm just not going to worry about it. It's like, just go and run it.
There is something to be said about just having a car that turns on, runs, and drives, and continues to let you,
which is also
laps in.
That's why it's also NA for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, because I'm looking at starting a new project as well, and that's been one thing that's been one of my biggest priorities, is that I want to stage this project in such a way that I can take it out pretty consistently, drive it, assess the progress, and then think about what we need to do next.
Yep.
Right. Instead of let's do anything and everything, and now it's like 4 or 5 years down the road, the car's just been sitting on jack stands, and it's like, yeah, that's how people lose interest, and it takes forever. And it's like, sometimes you just need to get the car out and drive it to.
I built, to your point, and this might help you. I don't know if I'm very visual, so I built like a node board where it was like, what are the big things? You get the big circles, like it's weight bias, weight balance, and overall weight. And then there's sub-ons, which are arrow, which sort of play into each of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to put them down and visualize, okay, these are the main things of this car. And anything outside of that, even if I think it might be eventually better, they don't need to be on the first version of it.
Right.
So like going into the build, like with Riley, was like, well, if anything, if we need to change anything, like the stuff we're doing now, we're building the correct bone. Like the cage is the right cage to be in that car, and that's going to be the cage that's in the car. But anything else we could change. And he was like, that's the whole point. That's how you build race cars. That's how you build fast stuff. So I think that helped me. I don't know if that might help you, Kilgore.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a good way to go into it.
Yeah, I can also see that's going to help limit scope creep and all those sort of things, right? Yeah. Where you're like, oh, well, we could do this, but if we're going to do that, well, now we need to change this and that, right? And it's like, nope, just stop it before it even starts, right? Like you've got your list.
I'll give you an example. I drive the WRD Racing Prelude for WRD Racing. It's a red Prelude. It has the current limited class front wheel drive record at Button Willow for GTA. I think we did like a 45 4 something in it. When that car did that, it was on like stuff that should not have been on that car, but it just worked. It kind of worked. It was like, it worked enough. And we were always like, well, let's put it down and let's fix this and that. And it was just like we could make it work, like just do kind of smaller stuff. And then when it's ready to sort of like, okay, now we're going to refresh the whole thing, take it down to nuts and bolts, and then build it back up. But we didn't constantly get that scope creep. And I think if we would have done that, we would have never gotten that record. I don't think we would have pushed that last year that the car was running. There was issues with it, but it was like, yeah, okay, well, we can make 2 or 3 laps with the wet sump. It's not going to love it, but it'll finish those laps. Or we could take the car down, and no one knows how to build a dry sump for the H22 because it's got the H22 in it. Like then you go down that whole road, and now it's like another 2 years. Like that car would never have gotten back on the track in that time frame. But now that car's down, and now it's getting all that stuff's getting done to it. But like it's a good example of we sort of like intentionally understood the scope creep was just going to kill that whole program if we just let it.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, when's the next time do you think we'll see that car on track? Because I do love seeing that car out.
Yeah, that car has a lot of really cool stuff done to it. Again, it's got a lot of parts coming in. It's going up to Riley in the next 2 months or month, I think. We have the transmission. We've got all the gearing. We've got dog boxes for it. It's got the motor. Like it's all this stuff is there. The cage has been done. It's already been caged by Riley, but there's some things that we need to do with the dry sump, like I was saying, and it'll be there sooner than later. I think that car is going to come back, and it's going to kind of blow people's minds. The thing's going to be real fast.
I'm super excited. It's such a beautiful car. The team, the guys that run it are awesome guys. I love seeing them at the track. So I'm excited to have that car back out.
Yeah. Let me ask what is going to seem like a totally random question. Has Riley ever worked, or do you know, like, has Riley ever worked on like a cage or things like that in a carbon monocoque or anything like that?
He's done, I think so. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think so. Yeah. And I know he's definitely done cages in cars where you need to bond them. So like Corvettes, things like that. And I think it's the same process. I don't know carbon monocoque, because that would be like a Ferrari or an Alfa or some high-end Porsches. I'm not sure. It could be. That dude has done freaking everything. And he's just like the ultimate ninja.
I'm going to have to reach out to him.
Kilgore's plotting.
I am. Because I mean, honestly, like for this project, it's that's going to be one of the biggest first hurdles that we need to figure out is, how are we going to do safety in a carbon monocoque? And what are the regulations and how are the organizations going to feel about this, and make sure that they're comfortable with what we've done, et cetera, like that, and make sure that everything's good. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
we'll see.
he's your man. I know I've been in this world a long time, and uh, I'm very dubious of fabricators after that my experience with the 8.6, and he's literally one of the only guys I've ever been able to say, this is going to get done, and this is the schedule. He told me it. I could literally book a flight now to show up to pick it up because it will be done on that schedule. And I've been fortunate enough to be pretty close friends with him in the last, 2-3 years. And I see him work on everybody's car just like it's his own and really put it all into it. And like that, I don't know anybody, and I work in an industry with a bunch of psycho people that put in a lot of hours. I don't know anyone that works harder than that guy. So just having my car up there, I'm just like, I'm so stoked to see how it comes out. And he's got other builds, and I don't know if I could talk about a lot of them, but he's got some other stuff in there that will blow your mind that are like,
I'm sure.
eminently
I mean,
coming
even,
out.
I mean, Jager, I mean, I don't know if you, I mean, I'm sure you've seen other things, but like seeing Bailey's car up close and personal at Laguna, at Grid Life. I think he's done work on Mike Burrow's Ferrari as well. I mean, you look at those cars and it's just like unbelievable. And that's just, I mean, that's not even scratching the surface of what all he can do. That's like child's play for him right there. So like, I mean, it's unbelievable. He is top notch, no doubt about it.
So I just want to touch on. So you said Mike Burrows. So I just want to throw it out there. So you've done a lot of other things besides driving and building your own cars. You've done a lot of other things in Time Attack to kind of help the scene, help the people within the scene. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit? Give us an explanation of kind of what are the extracurriculars that you've done in the Time Attack scene?
I think back in that would have been in 2015 or so, I started helping run what was then called HFF Challenge, so Honda Front Wheel Drive Challenge. It then merged with S2K Challenge and it's turned into HTAC. So I wrote rules and basically managed those track days for our little club for years, like 6 years, with a group of guys that were on the board, all of us doing it. Not getting paid, still paying for the track days to show up. It was like the ultimate labor of love. But doing that, and it sort of teaches you a lot about competition, like what people are looking for, rules, writing rules, updating tire rules, things like that. It makes you stay current. And then I would help just, friends of mine, they would have really cool cars or really cool programs that were like, hey, we want to go fast in this thing. I know that you had experience with X, Y, or Z. Can you come and help us out? Just with your experience, not anything like crazy. And, which led to kind of driving some cars for, Art of Attack and some other stuff, other WRD racing, among others. So I always like to kind of just be helpful and be around, and maybe someone will tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, do you want to drive like the Long Beach Grand Prix circuit? And you're just like, how did I end up in this situation? This is amazing. But like, you just have to kind of be in those places and more or less have an idea of what you're talking about, but also not talk about stuff that you don't know about. Just a reliable source of information, and people will come and ask me and say, hey, cool. And above anything, I think with competing and all that, I just love the sport, and I love all the people that are in the sport. Like in Grid Life this year, we've got a bunch of guys we're all within hundreds, like literally, I think 2 of the races we lost by 200ths of a second. And we lost the front wheel drive record by whatever 200ths of a second, which is like nothing. But those guys, if they came up and said, hey, what should I do with my Civic? Like, I'll freaking help them set up their car for the next session. Like, I just love it. I just love the whole thing so much that like, I'm not precious about, like, oh, I got to keep the knowledge down. I'm not going to look at that data, or I'm going to go and, like, it's just, I think it's bad for the scene. I think it's just a bad look and it's not who I am. So I've never done it. And it's always kind of helped me in a weird way. Kind of be in the right place, like I said, at the right time, able to drive cars that are, I wouldn't have been able to drive otherwise.
What do you think, trying to give advice to future drivers out there, when you get those opportunities and they say, hey, I want you to drive my car, what's the advice that you would give to them in those situations?
Just be realistic and be realistic with the owners. Like, and think about stuff that they're not thinking about, I think is the big thing for me. There's like, I've been asked to drive some pretty high horsepower, sketchy things. And I've said no once or twice because I knew the car was a lot faster than the safety was involved. And back in the day, I wouldn't have cared. I would have just been like, yeah, I'll figure it out. But the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, you get a couple cracks at that. And there's one too many at some point. So, I don't know. I think just be realistic about, first look at it like, I'm going to be driving this. What can go wrong? And it's weird stuff. Like we were at Coda in the Prelude, we were doing like 178 on the back straight, and the axle would break. We break an axle every other lap. And when the axle would break, it would pull one way or the other. So like there was a couple of times in the early days where I was like, I just hope it doesn't break on the straight. And then would just send it down the straight. I don't know if I would do that much nowadays. But back then I was like, yeah, screw it. Let's see what happens. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that, like that's the only thing to think about, but yeah, definitely, I think about that more than ever now that I'm getting older. But, yeah, just figure out if someone's asking you, hey, you're quick. I want you to drive my car. Like, what are they looking to get out of it? Just the basics. Like, do they want you to win? Do they want feedback? Like, and I never really drive cars unless I have a explicit, like, do you want me to drive this 10/10s or do you want me to do like a safe lap and I can get you this lap time? And I let them kind of be the one to push the button and say, yeah, send it. Let's see what, and actually know that they want me to send it and not just saying that. Like, so, but yeah, I mean, there's a million things involved in this. You can't really.
Well, you touched on the thing that I really wanted you to say. So it kind of works out perfectly because this is something that I think really people need to understand. And that simply is when you put a driver that is very capable in a car and you say, I want to see a good lap out of my car. Well, that's a very different story than I want you to drive this to the point where there's a potential for you to wreck it. I want you to drive it
those are
half tenths.
You're absolutely right. And I will say, because I think you brought this up to me, is at HPDE or something like that, there's no reason to drive that dude's car 10.5%. There's just no reason. You could have them sit passenger and literally just get within 90% of the brake threshold, and I guarantee you're going to blow that dude's mind. Like, and he's going to be. That's the only thing you do is brake hard. He's going to be like, oh my God, that's insane that my car can do that. And you just do the safest lap of all. But like in a competition sense is totally different. If you're in a wheel race, for example, like we do some lucky dog racing, and they're like, look, we got to find a minute in the next 20 minutes. You're really like, I can break this thing. What do you want me to do? And you got to get the okay. And, everyone is on board and pretty quickly, but whichever team you're working with, like how comfortable they are, like, and the more experienced guys are right there with you saying, yeah, let's do it. Screw it. It's not, like it's attainable. But then there's there's the people that come out and when you would write rules for Age Tech and HFF Challenge, I think we were one of the first people with an anti-sender rule. Like if you went off in your session, this is why I really love Grid Lights for doing this. If you went off in your session, it deletes your times. And I used to look at data and I'd see these guys that would be doing these lap times that were like, yeah, this is pretty quick. But that would be there would be 1 and then 15 laps of trash that were like 5 seconds slower. And I'm like, unless you're doing that lap time pretty consistently, or you could see you do it first 2 and the tire deck starts to go down or whatever the case, like you're not really like, yeah, you're sending it around that hard, but like you're just getting away with it. You're not driving like that car at the level that is a consistent, so I don't know. There's no, at HPD days, there's no reason to take someone's car out and just like absolutely set down a burner. Like I wouldn't do it. No, no way.
Well, and I think you also said something very interesting too, is you mentioned as I get older, and that is a huge factor. Like you said, right? Back back in my early 20s, if you would have said, hop in this and insert any car with little to no safety. Hey, the seatbelt doesn't work. It's okay. I'll just, it'll be fine. Like, honest to God, like you wouldn't have cared. You think you're going to live forever. The older you get, the more you go, the seatbelt doesn't. No, I'm not driving that.
We used to run canyons, like sketchy SoCal canyons, and I had a ratchet strap as a seatbelt for like a while. And I look back and I'm like, I guess it was a rite of passage because everyone did dumb stuff at that age. But like, I look back now and I'm just like, what, are you kidding? Holy crap.
Well, and that's the truth, right? And so like nowadays, as we do have some of the younger guys coming up and we see what they're doing, like you said, we as the older generation here, we have to kind of guide them and say like, you want to be around tomorrow, you want to see your next build. So, hey, let's make this make a little bit more sense. Let's calm this down and let's build this out correctly. Then we can get out there, we can attack this. You got to know when to call it quits too. I mean, I love, so just to kind of jump ahead a little bit, but Grid Life, this last Grid Life event, Mike Burrows had a problem with his transmission, and a bunch of people kind of pushed him and said like, dude, let's fix this. Let's get this going and let's go again. And they talked about how he like stayed up all night long to get that done. And I love that kind of determination and loyalty and just helpfulness within Time Attack. At the same exact token, you go, okay, so did Mike Burrows get any sleep before he had to wake up to go run Grid Life the next morning? And there's that balance there, right? Like the guy has
I will say that it's kind of a sliding scale because when you're younger and you have the mindset to do that, you're usually in stuff that's not that quick. Yeah. Like I would stay awake and work on my Civic to make the track day, like leave the house at 1 a.m. to get to the track. And I'm like, okay, like I go off in a 200 horsepower Civic in Buttonwillow, like, I could roll, but it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But like, I think if somebody, like Dusold isn't staying up until like 5 a.m. to work on his car because he realizes that thing's really fast and can't really mess around. Yeah. So like, I think the scale slides a little bit. So when you're younger and kind of stupid, like you don't have the weapon that's going to really cause some damage. But nowadays, I don't know. I stopped doing ride-alongs with people because I would go to the track and someone would have like I've got a Z06 Corvette come ride at Auto Club Speedway with me. And I'm just like, dude, no. Like I did it like a couple times. I was like, this is insane. This is like somebody that has no idea how to drive and is in this car that is just way faster than they are. And I got scared a couple of times. I'm just like, oh, so maybe in those situations, like that's a different story. But if it's just your run of the mill, little Honda ratty car, like you'll probably be okay.
I love how we both have a very similar, like terrifying story of HPDE getting like in someone's passenger seat. And it's always got to be the guy, and he's older. He's always an older guy, and he's got a Z06 Corvette, and it's his first time on the track. And my guy, he didn't even know what the brake pedal was, so he thought he could take turn 1 at Willow Springs without using the brakes. And
so the first thing I would say when I would get in the cars, it sounds in this context, it sounds like a little like not big-headed, but in the context in the car, it's always the right thing to say is I would sit next to him and say, there's nothing you're going to do in this car in the next few minutes when I'm in it that's going to impress me. I need you I need you to just drive like you're normally going to drive. And then that's going to be able to give me an idea of things for you to work on. If you're driving harder than you're normally driving, or you're doing things differently because you're trying to impress me, it's doing neither of us any favors. It's going to scare the hell out of me, and it's not going to get any useful information for you. And normally when I started saying that, people would sort of be like, okay. So I'd say, let's start the first one at like a 60% lap, and then let's do lap 2 and a 3. Let's do the first half of the lap 100%, and do the second half of the lap at like a 60%, and then do the first half of the next lap at 50%, and the second half at 100%. And then it let people sort of have like, okay, it's okay if I'm not going fast in every corner, because that's where I started to find out that people would get ahead of themselves and be like, oh, I'm going to just send it through turn 1 with no brakes, and then enter into turn 2 40 miles an hour faster than I've ever done before. So they have no idea the brakes out. Yeah. Big Willow that's a scary place to ride with somebody.
Yeah.
in the best of times.
Yeah, it truly is. Well, let's take a little turn here. So let's talk about your season and your fun in the Hyundai Elantra N and what that's really shaped up and come about and what have you accomplished? And I know Kilgore's got a ton of questions. So let's jump into the Elantra.
So I got asked to drive for Moto and KTM Tuners in 2024. We did, I think 2023 was maybe the first one. We did Laguna Seca as the first time grid life was out on the West Coast for Laguna Seca. I drove that car in what was basically stock form. And then through the years, like, hey, can we, let's set something up to drive it here. Let's set something to drive it here. And then this last year, KTM Tuners jumped on board with myself and Moto and said, we're going to be basically a premier sponsor. We're going to put the logos on it, but we're going to also deal with the logistics and running the car all season. So this season, everyone went into it with very, very clear intention of, okay, we're not setting podiums. If we can, great, but we're not going to set podiums. Our goal is to really just do front of drive records if we can. And then the main goal is to just learn how this whole grid life thing works out. Can we actually get a car to the East Coast and run a team? Are we all going to get along and be able to, put a car in a trailer at the end of the event? And it's been a wild ride. I will definitely say that.
Well, tell us a little bit more. Tell us about what's the wild ride been like, because you just described an enormous undertaking from many, many people. The getting a car to the East Coast, and then we'll get into a little bit about what happens when things don't go quite as right as we all hope they'd go.
I guess I'll start at the beginning and say, going into it, we knew that this whole thing, because you have a finite amount of resource, right? Money, time. Like if someone's towing a car to the East Coast, 2,500 miles, it's what, $6,000 to tow a trailer and RV out there, not including the event, not including tires, not including anything to do on the car. So out of the gate, you're already spending a lot of money. So we went into it and said, above all else, the car that we're going to take to try and do the season needs to be reliable. So to make it reliable, we took the car that we were driving, which was originally the white one, and it was the most mild tune possible. It made 355, 360 horsepower. We never dynoed it until we were at the grid life events. So I think the first time it was dyno was at CNP, and then we dynoed it a couple of times. We never did anything to the tune. We never did anything to the car. We didn't change parts. So basically we ran the car that we started with, went to the East Coast. We didn't get to work on it. It was a huge ordeal to just get there a couple days early and work on it to just do alignment. So there was nothing else that could be done. So the whole goal, like I was saying in the beginning, was show up. I learned the tracks because the other things, I haven't been to any of these tracks. I don't know. I don't sim race either. So I'm literally on the plane. I watch a video for a few minutes and be like, oh, I got it. I think I got it. So we'd show up and then, I do my best day one to learn the track on old tires. We'd get an idea of kind of where we were in relation to the rest of the street class guys, and they're all fantastic drivers and they're all super fast. We get in the car and, okay, we can turn these knobs and make these changes. And we're literally talking tire pressure and maybe some alignment. We didn't even have adjustable sway bars, things like that. So it was a lot of just, it was me learning and the team learning on how to get this thing reliable, okay, it needs to get the brakes bled after X amount of time, things like that we didn't know. And we had some growing pains. I mean, the first couple races, we realized after the shootout set, or not the shootout session, the golden session where you would go the quickest is like, for example, we had like a tire gauge that was 3 PSI high because someone had dropped it. So there's a couple of these events where we're just dealing with stupid issues that it's no one's fault, but these are the things that you learn that you now know you need to check in these situations. And there's so much going on and there's so much to think about that stuff starts falling by you start having to just I just have to get in the car, put my helmet on, and you guys can sort out tire pressure. You guys can sort out whatever. You have to sort of just start trusting people on the team to do certain things. And we learned some good lessons and we learned some hard lessons. But I think overall in the season, I think we did, for the 2025 season, I think we set 4 front wheel drive records. I think 1 overall record, but it was a West Coast record. And we did 7 events. So someone did the math, it was 57%, of the time that we showed up to an event, we set a front wheel drive record. So the goal for the team, it's something that we could be proud of. I think I'm proud of it as a driver, learning the tracks and driving against some of the best drivers. I will say some of the best drivers in the United States. But I think the main goal was to really just understand this thing that we were competing in and then adjust and then go at it next year with a better car, a more sorted out car, figuring out what we need, what we thought we needed this last time, but we didn't actually need, put those resources in the stuff that we did need. So hopefully this coming year, we're all dialed in and we're going to come back and try and go faster and, maybe take the fight to some of the all-wheel drive guys. Those guys are really, really fast. But being able to build the car, I think now that we know sort of like what the tracks are like out there and what the car needs, because I had only driven Elantra on track maybe 5 or 6 times before we just went under this endeavor. It's a super competent car. We drove a 6-speed for most of the year. So if, I'm still shifting and rolling through gears and stuff, it's a really fun car to drive, but there's things that it doesn't like and there's things that it does like. And we just have to kind of be able to do more testing. And the hard part is, I started this whole episode earlier saying it's the iteration that I think makes things faster. And we were absent the iterative process for this whole season for our team. And it's not to make excuses. It's just to say it is what it is. It's what happens when you compete 2,500 miles away from your home. But I think learning what we've learned is we can make changes that are hopefully we could go a little quicker this next year.
I mean, one of the things that really stood out to me was, I think it was, I don't know how long ago it was, but finals, you drove an Elantra at finals, I believe.
Yeah.
And that stood out to me really quickly because I really was impressed with the amount of, with the lap time that you were able to put down with primarily looking over at it, seemed like a very, very stock car. And I could be right, wrong, or indifferent of how stock that car was, but I believe it was very, very stock.
Very stock, yeah.
And so by seeing
that very, very, very stock. We built it a little more before the Great Life season. And when I say built it, I mean we put a race seat in it after the first event, and then it's got some coilovers, off the shelf coilovers, no fancy dyno tuning or anything. And it's got some pretty good brakes from Neotech, which are one of our sponsors. But yeah, other than that, the car is just, it's capable, and it was relatively quick for feeling 360 horsepower or whatever. I think we were slower on the horsepower scale over a lot of the other competitors in that class. So what that car has going for it, to your point, Mark, is it's really slippery. I think it goes really quick in the straights. It doesn't have it doesn't have a big aero profile. So we did things we pulled off the wing, and I made some carbon parts and trunk and things like that to help with the weight, the low hanging fruit, the very little amount of low hanging fruit there is in street class. There's not a whole lot you could do to the car, which sort of, when you start with a car that I think is pretty reasonably quick, I think you're starting at a higher level than you would if you were in another car that was heavier and had less power, whatever. But I think the differential in that car is great, and it turns in really well. But to drive that car, there's quick and there's fast. To drive that car fast, you have to drive it really, really loose. So that car is very, very loose. It's a very loose car to drive. So that's one of the things we learned is a lot of the tracks on the East Coast are really quick. They have a lot of really quick, high-speed turns. So having the setup going into a lot of those tracks, I've never driven it. Going into it a second time, I think I choose probably some different suspension setup going into it as far as alignment goes.
So obviously, as you said before, you started off with a manual car. You ended up with a flappy paddle car at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, I'm sorry to bring it up, but give us a little bit of a storytelling time of how that all went down, and give us an idea of how to recover.
So I guess I should start with the wreck at Road America. So we went into Road America We were coming off. Weirdly enough, having wrecked there was still my favorite event of the season.
Okay.
Strangely, weirdly. And then like other events like Atlanta where we placed third, like overall and set a record, like not as cool, not nearly as cool. But okay, anyway, so backing up, we're going into Road America. I love that place. I love watching racing there. I've been there before, but I've never been on track. I think we went, we knew, so like I said, we pulled the wing off of the rear of the car, and we did it for weight because the rear trunk of that car is like 80 pounds, 75 pounds, some insane thing.
What?
I built it's crazy. You take it off and you're just like, oh my God, someone help me. So I built a composite trunk that basically just was the shape, and then we just aero cast it in. But to do that, we couldn't run the wing. And the aero profile, this is after the wreck. I sort of talked to my dad, who again is an aerodynamicist, and looked over some stuff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Audi TT and how it had the recall.
Oh, I am.
People were going on, people were on the Autobahn and they would crash because it would get super light in the rear, over 100 miles an hour. So the shape of the Elantra N is very similar. And we knew that it was getting lift at high speeds, even at Buttonwillow, before we traveled anywhere. We did some testing. So I think anything over like 115-ish, it would get, as it would yaw, we get like 3 or 5 degrees of yaw. It would get really light in the rear. So I would counter steer it and be flat on the throttle. But the faster you were going, the obviously less grip the rear had. It bit us at CMP. It was the exact same scenario. So the first event of the year, I went through the kink, and I was like, I could go faster with the kink. I was going pretty quick the whole event. And then I was like, it was like Sunday, like golden session, like last hoorah. We go and I send it through the kink there, and it loops, and it, like, I'm counter steering and I touched the grass, and and it had been raining. So we tapped the wall. We hardly tapped it. Bent the tow arm back, and we were ready to go to the shootout, but we had been knocked out of the shootout in that same session by someone else. So we didn't end up going to the shootout. The car would have done the shootout. It wouldn't have gone fast, but we were hustling to get it back together to go run the shootout. After that happened, we brought the car back, I think before Gingerman, and we had done some testing at Buttonwillow, and I was like, oh, you know what? It's happening every time in the kink after Riverside, which is a left-hander, 116-ish miles an hour. It gets really light, and you can see the videos. I posted some stuff on the YouTube, and I think on Instagram. You can see me doing these big counter slides, and it's not like I'm hitting a bump and I'm catching a slide and it's like gripping up. And in a car with no aero at that speed, you're having to ride it out. So it's like, it's almost like you ride it out and then it sort of settles back down. And once it grips, you can feel it. Like, it's almost like, you could feel it in the car very much so, to the point where I knew what was happening. And then, so fast forward back to Road Atlanta. Now that we have a little context, is we had old tires on from, I think, whatever the race before that, Ohio or something. Being that we were traveling obviously all over the place, we would only really have a front set of tires. So I would learn the track on whatever the tires were from the previous kind of golden session, shootout session, or whatever from the previous. I would basically do the first 2 days, and then we would swap in the new tires, the new fronts normally. And then now fronts would be the tires for those 2 sessions, and then the first 2 days of the next session. That was kind of how that was working, tire strategy. Sometimes we wouldn't swap tires, but this time, right away at Road America, I think we had reset the front wheel drive record, and then we were driving against a real quick driver, Aaron Reckdahl, in a FK8. So we were within, like, I would get the record, he would get the record, I would get the record, he would get the record. And I was like, this is great, because we're not even on the new tires yet. And I'm still learning the track. This is like day one, like this is all looking good. So like we were saying earlier, I had a meeting with the team. I said, look, what do you want me to do? This next session is really going to be quick. It's going to be the afternoon session, or the going into evening session, where the track sort of gets a little quicker. Let's see. Sorry, maybe it was the next morning. So I think it was the quick session the next morning. And we had not put the tires on yet, because we were going to save them for the shootout, because the weather had changed. It had gotten hot that day or something. So anyways, I get on track, and what do you want me to do? Let's go for the record. We've been going back and forth. Let's go for the record, get the record, and then we'll put the new tires on. And then we'll have at least another half a second of the car, 0.8 of a second of the car. Okay, great. So I get out there, set the record again. And then on the second lap, I get pointed by, and I was like, all right, cool, clear track, kind of. I'm going to go quick. I'm going to see if I can go quick through this like second, third sector, whatever it is. I got a really good drive out of the carousel. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to carry the speed straight through. And, because this straightaway is all the time that you're going to get on that straightaway, basically. And I went into the kink at Road America, and you could see, I have it on video. You could literally see the car start to rotate in the back, and I'm counter steering, and you could see my throttle percentage on the dashboard. It's at 100%. Like I haven't lifted. Nothing weird. It just keeps rotating, and it rotates to a point where it gets to about here. And I think the air underneath where it would get lift kind of fell off because the car was now like a brick sideways. And then once it hit, you could see it just crack back. So it gets this gnarly crack back. And I hit the last 5 feet of the safer barrier because I had done this whole slide crack back. I hit the last 5 feet of the safer barrier. And I just remember hitting it. The airbags went off, blew out the windshield. The back seats like slammed into the front seats, like the rear seats. I'm like push. And you could see in the video, I'm still steering the car, like, never stop flying the plane type thing. Like I'm still steering the car, but, I knew that's a blind corner and people come through their ribbon. And I was like, man, I hope I don't get like T-bone. And then I got hit. I thought I got hit, but it was me backing into the wall. So it was the second hit was the one that really hurt. The first one didn't really hurt because the airbags. And then I guess I hit again on the front of the car that was already crumple zone. So when I hit, it was really hard. And now I'm just a concrete wall. We slid for like 20 seconds or something gnarly. It was like, you could see in the GoPro got knocked off my helmet, and you could see the reflection of the trees through the window, like still sliding. You thought I would have been stopped like 15 seconds before. I'm still sliding. So before I even come to a stop, I've got my arm out the window with the thumb up because I knew that the people that were on track were all pitted right by us. And the last thing I wanted was them to come in and be like, oh, I saw your boy like freaking like destroyed on back straight, and I didn't see him moving because I know how this works. I've been around the track once.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if I was okay. I didn't know anything. I just put my thumb out the window. Like, I'm good. Hopefully people like, yeah. So I come to a stop. Everyone goes by. I felt bad. The whole time I'm sitting in the car, I'm like, I just messed this whole session up for all these guys. I feel so bad. Like that was the thought. And then the safety car guy comes, and he comes around and he's like, can you get out? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. I could get out. So he comes around and he opens the door, and I get out, and I could see he's watching me, and then he's looking directly in my pupils. And he's like, how do you feel? And they're trained to see if your pupils are doing wacky stuff, if you got your bell rung. I'm like, oh, that was a big hit. And he's like, yeah, how do you feel? And I was like, I got my bell rung. And he's like, what's that mean? And I said, well, it's like when I used to box, you get hit and you can get knocked out and you get your bell rung. And the second I said the words, he was like on the walkie, like, we need medical. Total CYA. So they send the ambulance, and I'm thinking like I'm a live stream, like people are just gonna see the ambulance coming out. I'm like, oh no, like I'm fine. So they make me sit down, I get in the car, the ambulance. The lady's asking me the questions, like, do you live out here? What year is it? I'm like, look, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Like, she's asking me all the normal questions. She says, what's your address? And for whatever reason, I couldn't remember my freaking address. I'm like, I'll give you my previous 5 addresses or whatever. Like, I just don't like where I live. It just is one of those things where and she was laughing. She was like, oh yeah, no, I'm block time. And I was like, I'll give you my flight number, the flight I took yesterday. Like, so we get to the doctor's office, and he does the same thing, the flashlight in the eyes, and like, we're going to hold you for 10 minutes. See if you're okay. So I sit there and I'm waiting, and eventually he comes back and he's like, yeah, you're okay. You're good to go. Does anyone know we're here? And I'm like, no, like, I don't even know where here is. Like, I got an ambulance and then just showed up with this doctor. He's like, well, you're good to go. Have a good one. And I'm just like walking through the pits, like, I don't know, 15 minutes later with my helmet, and somebody drives by in a golf cart. I was just like, didn't you just like totally wreck your, and I was like, yeah, I just walked back. So they took pity on me and they drove me in a golf cart back to the pits. But yeah, it was an interesting day. It really, really sucked. I felt most bad just to mess the session up, but obviously I was like, oh man, this is going to hurt tomorrow. And I got stiff and everything, but I was fine. In 2 days, I was back at the gym when I got back to California, and I was fine. But the car was unfortunately just totally mangled. Like, we normally in California, at least, they bring your car to your pit. They ask you where you're pitted, and then just bring your, hulking hunk of metal and say, here, figure it out. So no one was showing up. We're sitting there like waiting. And so we're like, well, let's go find the car. We're just standing here like, where's the car? So I get in a truck, the rental with Josh, who owns Canadian Tuners, and we drive and we just find a flatbed, somebody with a walkie. We're like, hey, like if you wreck a car really bad, like where did they put it? And he's like, oh, was that your team? And then Josh is driving, and I'm in the passenger seat. The guy's like standing right at my window, and Josh like, oh yeah, he was driving. And the guy was like, no kidding. It was just like, whoa, that was a good one. And I was like, oh man, these guys have seen everything. And he like was giving me props for like stuffing that thing super hard. So they are like, oh, it's in the field over there. Like go over there to the field and you'll see it. And we pulled up, and it was just like, oh, the thing was like just flattened, like the whole front, the whole back, where I'd hit the wall, where I hit the wall in front again. The frame rails were pushed in, like crunched the motor. Like, all the mounts were broken, motor was twisted. Yeah, so wasn't great. But talking team and it was like, look, I'm, like this is, I don't know what to say. Like, and I didn't have to say anything. All of those guys are competitors. They're like, look, like this is what happens sometimes when we're trying to go fast. It sucks. We sort of knew that thing with the rear. We've been talking about it. We didn't have the new tires on it. We all kind of had to download, and we're like, what could we have done? But it is what it is, and it sucks, and I feel horrible. But that was unfortunate ends to that car. And then we missed Lime Rock, which was the next race, because we obviously didn't have a car. And then Autobahn was coming up, and we got some of the in-club guys, the SoCal guys that are in the Hyundais. One of them said, dude, I've got a car. It's a DCT. It had some parts on it that we had to take off to make it street ready. But like, yeah, let's go out. And we thought we had some magic bullet. We're like, all right, this is the car. This is the DCT car we've been talking about all year. And we got to the track, and it was just like, it was nothing but not ready. It had like a crackle tune on it. So I would go out, I do a lap, and then the exhaust temps were at like 1850 Fahrenheit because it was just dumping fuel in. So it would crack. I was just like, oh no, this is not good. So we did what we could that event. It was sort of a bummer. I like that track, and I think that car would have been fast. Like the old car would have been really fast there. But after that event, it was obviously going to be Laguna Seca. So we're like, well, let's regroup. We'll get the car back. We'll have like 4 days to do whatever on the car we could do, which was not a lot, but it was like, get it retuned was the main thing. So we take out the tuner, and the freaking dyno was broken. So we're like, dude. So he's like, oh, street tune it. Don't worry about street tune it. Like we're like 16-year-olds again. I'm like, oh, cool. So they got rid of that. We were ready. We went in Laguna. We put the bigger tires on it, the 285s on the front. And we're like, all right, cool. Like we have the record here already from the previous year, front wheel drive. Like we're going to try and go for it. And we found out, unfortunately, I think I talked to you a little bit when you were there, Jager. The car, when I would get on the brakes heavy, it would think that it was about to crash, and it wouldn't release the brakes. And we had guys from Korea there, super helpful from Neotech, and they were calling people back, the homeland, and saying, what do we do? What can we do? We had some ideas, and we did some things, but in the data, we were like much, much faster than we actually ended up being able to go. I would literally get in the last corner, I'd get on the brakes, and it would just lock and hold the brakes and just kill all of my speed. So we still went faster than the previous year, but like it was not indicative of the speed in that car. So all that being said, the DCT, I don't know if I think at this point, I think the safer bet is to run a 6-speed, just because we never had that problem in the 6-speed. And that's something that I don't know a solution. I can't program that out. I don't have the skills to do that. So it's like, if we're going to run a Elantra next year, which I think we are, I think it's the 6-speed is the way to do it. It's the car to run. And it sucks because the DCT would be faster, but there's a bunch of unknowns, like the power level, like the way you break the transmission, and you're just looking at each other. Like, I know how to pull a clutch. I know how to do that stuff, but I don't know how to reprogram a transmission ECU. So I don't know. I think we're taking a safe route. Maybe going to do a 6-speed more than likely. And I know that there's speed and time in the DCT, but I think it's too early. And I think being the team that drives out from California, if we were doing like all California event series, it might make sense to sort of go through those teething issues. But again, just like this last year, we just have to have a reliable car. It just needs to work because we can't fix it in the garage at Gingerman that we rent when we're out there. We just can't do it. So
what's that next year going to look like? What's your guys' plan? I mean, obviously build upon what you've already done, but what's that real plan look like?
We talked about a couple things. To be honest, street class wasn't always going to be the second year. We were going to bump up maybe and run another car. We had some ideas. We have access to other cars that we could run. And then we talked about it and we said, we learned a lot of valuable lessons in this chassis, specifically the Elantra N's. It would be stupid to start from scratch in another class, in another chassis, and have all those problems again. Like we have the base level problems of like logistics and how to get around, but the new chassis would be, a whole nother can of worms that we already got through the other can of worms. So let's stick to what we know. I think we're going to get back with 6-speed, like I said, and then just actually build the car this year. This last year, we weren't really sure what we should do or could do, and to help the car go quick. But now I think we know now, and I think we're going to build on that knowledge. I think it's the smart thing to do is just run street class, run another car, and give it like a year where it's like, okay, we know what we're going into. Let's see how we land. And I think the car will be faster for sure. Like I said, this last car, I think max power we had was like 360. Those motors can produce a lot more than that reliably. So I would imagine that would be a real low hanging fruit. I mean, just lap time. Like if you're on a straight and you're just hitting a pedal and you're going faster, like that's the easiest lap time to get.
Well, I mean, also now you've been to all of these tracks. Now you have data from all of these tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, just that alone.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And we weren't capturing, we didn't even put data like can collection data in the car to like a Solo 2 or something. I literally am using my Solo 1 that I use when I do coaching. So I have lat long. Yeah. I have lat long battery power, predictive, like, whatever. So we weren't looking this entire year. I didn't bring my laptop to the tracks. I would just get in it, drive it, be like, I think it needs this. Tell the guys they would do what we could do. Just limited to basically suspension. Never had a tune put on it. Never changed the tune at the track. All that stuff, which probably would have been super helpful. But we never did it. And then I would get home and I would look at the data and be like, oh man, now I know that I could have probably been flat there, or that was not a line take. So yeah, to your point, I think it's going to be helpful to have been to most of these tracks now.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll be interested to see, again, the Elantra N with you at the wheel has impressed me. I definitely see the potential in there. I will say I would have loved to see you go down the DCT train and to see like where that could have landed. But I do completely understand why not to go down that route and the problems that could then exist. So do understand.
The cool thing is the owner of the car that we drove at Laguna Seca and at Autobahn is interested in building like what I guess would be whatever the next tier up from street class. He wants a fast street bond. He wants a fast Elantra N with aero. So it's not going to be necessarily like a grid life specific car, but he's going to build that DCT car.
Oh,
throw a wing and splitter and do all that stuff, put a bunch of power on it, and I'm still going to drive it. So, we'll both be able to see, because I'm in the same boat. Like I really, really want to see what those can do, like properly built with the DCT. But I don't think the venue of grid life is the right place to learn that, really. I think it's more of like, oh, we're going to go to a STC day like an hour and a half away instead of driving at 16 hours to show up and realize that it's not.
I mean, you have the West Coast, you have the SCCA stuff that's going to be going on this year. So maybe those.
We've been talking about that very, very heavily. I think, just being in the time attack and seeing that's a new thing, we want to support anything we can. And I think that if we're leaving a car out there, the Elantra car in a garage at Gingerman, again, like we did half of last year, We've been talking about even just having Canadian tuning guys support another car that we run on the West Coast that is doing all the SCCA stuff. So we've got big plans, and I think we've got a path to like accomplish these things. So I'd love to see more time attack like happening. I'd love to see them like throwing their hat in the ring of saying, we're going to put on a this, let's, come out. So we're dying. I check every day to see the website to see if they posted dates or the rules or whatever. We're raring to go, but yeah, what car will we drive in that? I'm not sure. I might take my Porsche, or I might take another car, another front-wheel drive car. I don't know, but we do want to compete. We do want to show up and show support on the West Coast.
Absolutely. The West Coast definitely needs to show support to the time attack scene. I think we did a pretty good job at Laguna. I still say there's some people that I'd love to see showing up at some of these events that I just don't quite see just yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So a couple of off the kilter questions for you. What do you think is the most potent time attack weapon?
I guess it's class specific. I mean, I will say the NSX has just been, it's going to be, do you guys hear this crazy echo? Am I going to be the only one that hears this echo?
It just came in like recently.
It's not mine, is it?
Oh, now it went away.
Mark, do you hear that? Yeah, it went away now.
Oh, is that you, Kilgore?
It might be. Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to stop it.
No worries.
I heard like a crazy echo. So, okay. Sorry. Can you ask me again?
So do me a favor. Okay. So what do you think, Will? What do you think would be the time attack car, the choice of weapon? If you were going for like a brand new build to start today, what would be the time attack build that you would start with? And what class do you think you would like to participate in?
If it were me,
Yep.
I've kind of put my saddle over the ISF. Like that's the horse I've chosen, right or wrong. But if it were me that wasn't me now, and it was somebody coming up thinking about building a car, it's rule dependent. It's like what sandbox do you want to play in? Street class is great and all, but in my opinion, I've said this in other places, I don't think that that's a place where you go and run street class your whole life. I feel like that's where you go and sort of get your feet wet. There's great competition, but eventually a few years and move out of there. So I don't know if whoever that fictional person would be is building a car for something for a few years, or they're setting their sights on maybe like a track mod. I don't know, but it seems to be the cars to beat nowadays are obviously the Supras and the Beamers and the stuff with kind of power on tap. You need another couple hundred horsepower. You make a call and you get on some Wi-Fi and make it happen. The other part of me that is the old school time attack is I mean the NSX is going to be, they're so fast and they're so capable stock. Having owned one and driven one on the track for years and years, they're so capable. I just don't fit in them safely. Like I couldn't cage one and actually drive it. But that would be the car that I would, if I could convince like a Sultan of Brunei to build and be like, dude, you really need to build like a really cool NSX time.
You need the bubble.
But I think there's some,
I know,
bubble. Like the Shelby bubble.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff that I think are, they don't have an audience yet. Like there's an audience of people that track them. For example, this Porsche, I have a 996. It's essentially a GT2 clone. So it's a 996 turbo. But it's two-wheel drive. So it's like the Wheelmaker. I think that if you were going to build just an absolute killer car that would just like ruin a class, you can build it out of that car because you can make them really light. You could run OEM aero that is more than sufficient. You could run those things at like 1400 horsepower. Like you could really make a killer car that could go do some real damage. But for whatever reason, not a lot of people are doing time attack in Porsches, probably because they're freaking expensive.
Yeah.
And a pain in the ass to work on. But something like that would be probably the answer that I'd want to give. But the real answer is the Supras and the Beamers nowadays are just, they're fast. They're always so fast.
glad to hear. I'm always interested to hear what people's interpretations of like interesting and cool, and then at the same time like just fast as an overall. And a question
Yeah.
that we love to ask everybody, and you've gotten to experience quite a few racetracks now. Out of all these tracks that you've been to in the past year and all time, what is your favorite? And I say this in a very specific way: time attack track. The track that says time attack and is great for time attack.
Oh man, I really enjoyed Gingerman, but I will say that I'd have to give it to like Chuckwalla, even though no one really does time attack there. It's a track that rewards you, not like the way I describe it to people is normal tracks like do this here, turn in there, brake here. At Chuckwalla, it's like don't do this, don't be over here. So it's like this total opposite of what makes you fast there because it's a balanced track. It's a lot of high speed balance. I would like to see more cars go there. But when just being a SoCal native, like I don't necessarily love that track, but I love time attack there. It's just it's got a vibe when you pull up and you're like, oh, this is like finalists. It's just I've been going to that event in one form or another since 2004. So for 20 years. So I just have a built-in, like, this is really cool. Like I just come here and I feel like this is the one thing a year that's just like super cool. So I would say those two. There's some other cool tracks coming online. It sounds like here and there, but man, yeah, I would say Chuckwalla, Buttonwalla are my two big ones.
Okay. I mean, Chuckwalla is not
Fair enough.
mentioned very often. I think
It's
me,
so good.
and a very select few have actually time attacked there. And it is a very, very cool track. Like you said, the flowiness to it, like you said, you have to not
Well,
do
so
this.
that it's that in Streets of Willow. Like I have a soft spot for just really ghetto places, just because that's all that's around here in SoCal. People were like, "Oh, there's a lot of tracks." It's like, yeah, they're basically parking lots in the desert, and then there's like a paved track. So, like, I know when you ask that question, some people they're probably thinking about facilities and like amenities, and like Chuckwalla is an hour from anything. There's not like from fuel, you have to drive 45 minutes to get gas if their gas pump's broken. So I'm just talking specifically on like the driving experience, which is like the thing that I think is the coolest part, obviously. But yeah, like if can you put on like a Midwest Fest type thing at streets? Probably not. Probably horrible idea. Probably Chuckwalla, yeah, not really gonna work too well. But I'd like to see him try, but it's probably not gonna happen. But track wise, I think that's the big one. I actually have a question for you too.
All right. Well,
Kilgore
I was gonna
Jager.
say, I just don't know. I still don't understand how some of these tracks have survived out by you guys. Like, I don't understand how you guys kept them in business. Why you kept going out there? It makes no sense to me.
It's wild, but it's like it's weird. You show up, and it's like home, but it's literally like a paved rectangle and then just a racetrack and a bunch of tweakers working flags. It's such a SoCal experience, and it's weird because now I've been to the East Coast tracks and I'm like, man, it's so different. I think that's probably one of the biggest shocking things for running grid life this whole year is seeing how different just the tracks are and how they're run and how much pride that the people out there put in the tracks. Like out here, you're like a leper. You're like, where are you going? You're like, oh, I'm going to Streets of Willow. And the people at the gas station are like, yeah, get out of here. like you weirdo.
I mean,
so I don't know. It's cool.
To give some context, I live 5 minutes from Willow Springs, and they did that Willow Springs Reimagined event, and there was actually people within the town that were like, why is all this traffic going on? And people were like, the Willow Springs event. And they go, what's Willow Springs? The people who live in the town don't even know there's a racetrack in the town.
That's what I'm saying to people, that they don't picture, they don't get that. It's because like you go to like somewhere in Michigan or wherever, like the whole town knows about the track and they're going to go to the festival because it's the thing that's going on. Like you literally live 4 minutes away from Willow Springs and they're like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
We were just talking with Adam Jabay, and he was talking about like that they go to the city council meetings. They like talk to the sheriff about like, hey, like we need support. We're like, here's the traffic flow pattern we're thinking about. Like, all these things that they do, and like it makes a lot of sense. But I just, you know what, it just astounds me. There's just like this disconnect with SoCal car culture and how strong it is, and yet you have such terrible tracks.
I will say,
how did this?
Don't get car culture and tracks confused. They're not the same thing. And Jager, you could back me up on this. Like, in my experience, the people that are into cars, quote unquote, have the most tenuous connection to track people that actually drive. It's like saying like, oh, like, yeah, my daughter rides a bicycle, but somebody is racing in, you know, like Superbike or something. Like, yeah, it's a two, like it's kind of the same thing, but it's not at all the same thing. So I think SoCal has a lot of the people that are into cars. And I mean that most derogatory sense I could put it. Because there's a lot of really questionable antics that go on around here, but there's a really hardcore group of people that's really small that are into racing. And when I say small, it's probably the same, you know, per capita as elsewhere in the United States, but it's just different. I think the way that people get into it and the way that people start going on the track and stuff, like you have to want it because you're not bringing your wife to Willow Springs and having her hang out for more than one weekend before she's like, I'm not doing that again. Whereas you could go to, you know, one of these beautiful tracks on the East Coast and, you know, the family could go hang out and there's like a national park right there and you could just, you know, roll around on the ATV and have fun. That's not the case out here. So it's a more, it feels like there's a lot of people, but I feel like it's a more kind of smaller, harder core group of people that really want to be there for like a bunch of masochists. Like
Pretty
that's
much
what it feels like to me. Yeah, pretty much.
But it's also, I got to say this because it's funny to me, and you were sort of saying it, and I realized like, okay, you keep saying East Coast, and basically you just mean anything east of the Rockies, right? Like that's pretty much what you mean by East Coast.
That's a very SoCal thing, and yeah, I was born. I will say, I was born in Massachusetts, and I lived out there for my young life. So I am from that area, but having lived in California since I was 10, like anything east of the Rockies is like East Coast.
That's fair. Yeah.
Even though it is the Midwest, and I apologize. It is the Midwest.
No, it's all right. Yeah. Because you kept saying like, oh, we put the car on the East Coast. And I was like, well, that's just as far to drive to some of these Midwest, you know, as it is to, you know, from California.
That's my bad. Yeah. No, it's Chicago. It's like the Chicago area. Like that's what I mean. But that's just me being ignorant. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's all right. All right, you had a question for us.
I did want to ask you too something that I was actually thinking about. Do you guys feel like, so when I was saying the best cars, the difference between the car that I would choose is like the ultimate time attack car and a car that I would tell somebody like, hey, if you're building something, get out there and go and win. They're not the same thing as they were even 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, and this is more of the question to you guys, do you feel the same way? Do you feel that the cars are more of an appliance nowadays? There's no more, let me explain this. There's no more halo builds, I feel like. There's a couple cars that are like, oh, like that car is insane. Like I will recognize that car like I will recognize Nemo or, you know, the Voltex Evos, or like they have a presence and they're like, that's that car. Like Amir's NSX was, or, you know, Mark's Jager, your Subaru was one of those cars too. Like, oh, that's the car. I've seen that car. I don't feel like there's many of those anymore, and I don't know why. And I'm wondering your guys' take on this because you're as deep into this as anyone.
So I'll say this. I think as an overall, the unlimited class builds are the ones that generally get put into that. I mean, Amir's car was a very special car in itself, which got put into that category. Even as such, I think if he would have, you know, if he finishes that car and gets it out in an unlimited class build, it will more cement that status as that forever build. But it is hard to get to that halo point, and it's even harder now. And I say that now because the cars are so much faster. Like you said, right? Like the Supras, the BMWs, the Corvettes, like all these cars are so much faster. I was having a conversation with some guys this just the other weekend, and I was trying to let them understand. So we've been around a while. We go to the Sub 2 Club at Buttonwillow, right? And because they were like, I don't understand this Sub 2 Club. Why was this such a thing? Who cares? Who cares about going Sub to a Buttonwillow? It's easy. And I was like, trying to explain to them how it used to not be easy. Like you had to.
It used to be like a sub 50.
Like
it was literally that hard, and I don't think people realize before the repave and before tires.
And that's exactly
really
what I
sucking.
said to them was, it'd be like telling you, go sub 50, and that's what our categories were. The cars were slower. We had turbo lag. You had terrible tires. You had not as good as an understanding of aero and how it all works with the cars. You didn't have so many companies making purpose-built products for things, and so a lot of that had to be handmade out of Alumilite and like crazy stuff like that, and it wasn't as easy to go as fast, and so it was harder, which in my opinion also it allowed cool shops, and this is probably one of the biggest things when we talk about Halo builds. So back in those days when we had those huge Halo builds is when we had these shops that were looking to promote and build business and say, I want people and I want to show people what I can do so that they come here and they give me their business and I build for them. They built these things out of their own desire and love of the sport. And for some way, shape, or form, we have kind of pulled away from that, where it is people like yourself. People like yourself are pushing the sport forward. And it's not Will the shop owner, it's Will the person. And I was one of those people as well. Like I pushed my Subaru, and yes, I had huge, immense helps from Yimmy Sport, and they did freaking everything. But it was because I pushed that, I drove that, I paid for that. And it was one of those things in that nature where nowadays that's the constant. It's not the outlier. And there's nothing wrong with the personnel driving these things, but it would be nice to see the shops get more involved. And that's why I actually really enjoy hearing the KDM tuners portion of this and them wanting to get involved, because by them getting involved, it pushes and drives a lot of progress for that brand and for the ability of those chassis to go faster. But little things like that, the Halo cars of like what we remember as time attack cars that were just amazing. I hope we get back to that. I don't know what it's going to take though to get back to that.
Is it? So do you think that because somebody, I'm just trying to understand, do you think it's because somebody could just go buy, X BMW or X Subaru, or not Subaru, but like Toyota nowadays to go fast? There's less input from these shops that would then make them a Halo car. Because I know Evasive, like when they come out with a car, you're just like, oh wow, that's like a showstopper. That thing is insane. So I get exactly what you're saying, but it seems like there's still shops, but it's almost like people could build a car in a year and be like, yeah, I'm going to now buy a Corvette and see what that can do. So there's like, it's almost like an appliance. It's just like you're cycling through the time attack cars. Whereas before it was like, dude, you had a 2001 Civic and that's you ride or die. And that's the thing that you're going to time attack forever now, because that's the thing that you have so much.
And it took so many more years to get it to those levels. Right. And I think that's where we're agreeing in the sense that, for you to take that Civic and make the Jimmy route car, that wasn't a 1 year progression. I watched Boss. I watched his video last night, and I appreciated and loved what he said. So he came out, he did really well last year at finals, and he kind of felt like, I did it all. I'm the big man on campus. And then he came out to Laguna and got essentially like beat on by a lot of people. And he said that was kind of a cool wake up call for him to say, like, this isn't easy. You have to keep putting the effort in. You have to keep pushing hard. Joel Reyes? No, am I thinking of a guy? I'm thinking of a guy from work. but you know, it's one of those things like freaking it's one of those aspects that like you have Mike Reyes, there we go. Sorry, Mike. Um is one of those things where you have to continue to push, and you can't just simply just, you know, do something one time and done. And it used to be like you'd take that Civic and you'd spend 6 years building that car out
Yeah.
to make it as fast as it is. And I think Mike Reyes' story is kind of one of those stories. Like we had him on the show, and I actually didn't even realize the short duration of driving that he had done. It was actually a very small duration, and his build process was very steep. And it's like, bought a car, did this to it, kind of was quick, did 3 more things to it, was super quick. I went out and I won this. And it's like, and then Mike's even saying like, you know, almost kind of like you said, kind of got bored with it. Maybe I'm going to go a different route, and now he's going to go build a wheel-to-wheel car or do something, you know. And I think, like you're saying, it's like the Corvette. You can go buy that Corvette. You can go buy that Supra. You can go buy this BMW, and it's such a good, capable car to start with. I think there's less investment there.
That's okay.
And with that that less investment, you're more likely to just move to. And I think, and I hate to say it, but you know, through the glory of Ferris, pushed more, and other people who've done Corvettes, obviously, that they've pushed that Corvette into the forefront and said, look, here's the easy button, guys. What do we want to do with it?
So one of my favorite things in the world is pulling up to grid, you know, at just HPD, like, you know, Speed Ventures Day or whatever, and pulling to the front of the grid in like a freaking Lexus ISF. Like what? And they would come up to you afterwards and be like, what is, it's one of my favorite things of all time, which is also weirdly the reason I really like enjoy driving the Hyundai, because it's a little bit of the same thing. It's a freaking Hyundai. It is the ugliest car ever made, but sitting in it, you don't have to look at it. You could just drive it. From the driver's seat, you don't got to see it, but it's great. It's so like that being as capable of a car, and no one can believe me, you know, like you know, you don't have to believe that that's a great car. It is a great car. You know, just look at the season that we had in like a non-built car. It's a really good car. It's really competent, but, I love pulling up to the grid and, you know, just at the local days and being like, yeah, it's a Hyundai. And then people trip out because they're expecting to see that Supra or the BMW or whatever, because those are the normal front glass cars. And I do miss, you know, you see like these weird one-off, like I knew a guy that had the record for a VW Bug at Streets of Willow. And like, that was his albatross, man. That was his white whale. Like anyone would get close to it, he'd like throw another few grand at the car and go and get it back. And like, I love that because I would show up and I'm like, dude, you never see these things here. You would never see it. But it was so rad to see that dude. Just like, that was like, he was all about it. And it would show up to the front of the pack, you know, would pull in the green group or whatever and be like, oh, dude, no way. That's like 1300cc VW sitting there. I just miss things like that. Like the non-obvious stuff is always so fun to see.
So what do you think, Kilgore?
That's fair.
What do you think? What's some of your like thought process on the Halo cars?
So I think there's both good and bad. And part of the reason I'm going to say that is because I agree. I don't think we're seeing as many Halo cars. I also think, though, that the cars are being diluted out because of these easy buttons. And I say easy button because even Luca Barberis, who was in the Supra at Laguna, he had sort of made like a joke. He had put the easy button on the back of his Supra, like on the back of his window, right? Because like people had been giving him crap because they were like, oh, like you just go buy a Supra and you can just win street mod, right? Like there's a known...
I think that there's... I want to hear exactly what you have to say, but I do feel like it's not the fact that you bought that car and it's going to drive itself, is that you bought that car and you could have 800 horsepower and you don't even have to pull the motor. Like
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's sort of like there's a known recipe for what you can do.
Yeah.
And I think that this is one of the good things is that it has made time attack accessible for more people. And I think in some way, I mean, I think in some ways that's a very good thing.
That's
You
a
can
good
go
point.
buy a Supra, you can go buy a BMW, you can buy a Corvette. They're very good cars. They're very, very reliable, and you can go out and you can compete in them, and you can be quick. And I think that's a good thing because that's helping get people into the sport. And I don't think
I agree.
there's anything wrong with that. At the same time, Jager and I have said it multiple times. I think it is sort of diluting out and sort of making stale those cars. Like, I think back to when Jackie Dean had his, like, that car was super cool. And now it's been repeated multiple times. And you're
Yeah.
kind of like, like, if you lined up Jackie's car next to a bunch of other people's Supras, if they didn't have the livery on it, I wouldn't be able to pick it out.
I couldn't tell you. Yeah.
And
I miss, I guess it's when you see the trailer pull up for like a Sierra, and you're like, like maybe not even to that level, but like to see like, oh, that's, but then it's 3 cars pull out and they're all kind of the same. Like, oh, these parts work. So we put those on the cars.
Yeah. And I think it still goes back a little bit to the fact that because it is getting more accessible, you have people who are buying fast cars, but then they don't really have that intent to go very far beyond just bolt-ons, right? And that's one.
I guess I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
And
is there's no one really building. There's a lot of people bolting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I've gone with my current car, right? Like I had my M4, or I have my M4, and I really debated, okay, what am I going to do next year? Because, and Will, I agree with you what you said. There's a couple people who have stayed in street for a long time, but not many. A lot of people kind of come in and they get their feet wet, and then they decide to move on to something else. And I think Street GT is the same way. It really doesn't appeal to me to stay in there long term and to like really start like optimizing very, very small things to find, a tenth or two, over the next like 4 years, right? Like there's still a few things I could do to the car, but like that's not what interests me. I want to get back into a car that I can build and that I can continue to do big things to and have fun with. And as I was looking at my 2 options, sort of looking at the M4, I was like, well, I can bolt on some turbos and I can get 700 horsepower pretty easily in E85. I can buy a very well developed aero kit from
XYZ.
Obviously, Jackie Dean with Revo Sport has his. Beamer World has one.
You can pick up a phone and say, "Hey,
exactly.
send me that thing."
Yeah, and have it delivered, bolted on, and right like that. To your point, those cars would be quick. They would be very fast, but it's just picking up the phone, ordering, and bolting on. And that's why they're all the same. It's like, that's why I love going to Laguna because I get to race against a bunch of BMWs. But at the same time, I'm looking around and I'm like, man, all these F82s look the same. Right. And that's where like I start to be like,
but they don't have to. Like,
they don't have to. And I'm like, that's one of the great things about Time Attack is like, it allows for creativity and it should invite that creativity. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell the M4 and I'm going to do something that no one else has done. I want to move, like, I want to have something where people want to come to the track and see it and come by and be like, dude, that thing is crazy. Like, that's awesome. Just like your ISF, man. Like, let's do something. You want to do it for yourself. Absolutely. Like that's the most important thing. You want to do it for yourself. But to me, there's also a bit of like, I want to do it also like for the fans of Time Attack and do something different.
That's very well put, because when we were thinking about doing this, and I was like, kind of looking at how much it was going to cost, which is not trivial. And I was like, why would I do this? I could like put a down payment on a house, literally. And I was like, you know what? Because this is the thing that is this is all I care about. This is all I want. Like, this is so much cooler. And this is something that is not, it's not just mine. Like, you make it and then it like goes out into the world and it's its own thing. It sort of has its own personality, its own whatever. And I'm like, that is just so much freaking cooler to me, you know? And if you try and math yourself, you try and do math on it, it won't make any sense. But like, you talk to anybody that's got a like mind, just like yourself, and you're like, dude, I'm doing this because this is what I want to see. This is awesome. I can't wait to see whatever you got cooking. It sounds insane. Carbon monocoque.
Soon.
I'm going to call Riley. I'm going to be like, yo, is Kilgore calling you yet? You got to let me know what he's talking about.
We've been dropping a few hints here and there, but soon. I got to finalize everything, but we'll see.
I can't wait. It sounds insane. I had some stupid ideas about some carbon monocoque chassis cars in the past, and I almost pulled the trigger on a couple of them. And to this day, I'm like, man, I wonder what that would have been like at this point. That thing would have been crazy. But I don't know. I think the one that I finally decided to go with, I'm going to be stoked on. But I cannot wait to see what you got cooking.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, Will, we appreciate you being on the show. We appreciate talking Time Attack with you, man. It has been a good 2-hour session, man.
Holy crap!
So, Kilgore, got any other closing statements? Any other closing questions?
No. You can catch Will on Willem on Instagram, ILLWILLEM. Will, what do you have any other social media or anything else where people can follow along with you?
I'm not on Facebook, but I do post videos on YouTube. I think it's just Willem will get you there too. I think it's linked also in my Instagram account, but I'm a Luddite. I only have Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, we will link his pages in the description down below so you guys can check that out. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Perfect Lap Podcast. We try and keep you guys up to date with everything we got going on in the Time Attack world. Jager and I are planning to be out at Button Willow for GTA Finals. That's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to be doing a lot of content like we did for Laguna, talking to drivers, letting you guys know what's going on. And Jager, back me up on this. I think I'm right, but I don't think that Global Time Attack is going to be doing a live stream for finals. Do you know?
I do not have any inclination that they are going to, so I'm going to go with the answer is no at this time.
All right. So even more of an onus on us to give you guys content and let you guys know what's going on. So we hope to be able to do that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I will give you guys my, more refined opinion of Button Willow from someone who, has traveled the East Coast and is going to make their first visit over to the cow track. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to get out there and really kind of smell the air that everybody talks about.
You don't want to smell too much. It's a toxic waste dump from the 50s. That's why they got it for so cheap.
You can also check out our website at perfectlappodcast.com and email the show at maximumattack@perfectlappodcast.com. We love hearing from you guys. Send us content that you guys want us to create. Let us know if there's any particular guests you want us to have on, because we always enjoy hearing from you guys. You guys can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Those are going to be the main ways that you guys can listen to us or watch us. As always, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Will Drees. For all you time attackers out there, keep pushing, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.